human nature? What did it look like?
I don't know.
Did he have 2 arms?
Yes, he did.
Could he have been born with no arm?
Possibly.
Yeah, okay, so he can be any other way, so he's dependent.
But you're talking about his human nature versus his divine nature.
No, I'm not talking about human
Okay,
nature.
so
I'm
would agree.
I'm saying Jesus.
I would agree that the human nature is dependent. I would agree.
Okay, no,
but
if it's dependent, then you cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. It has to depend on something that's independent. So, what is the?
Oh, guys, on the point about infinite regress, I think we've discussed everything else. But on the point of an infinite regress is if you take this thing and you say this is dependent, it depends on this other thing. You say, okay, what is that thing? Dependent or independent? Oh, well, it also depends on this thing. The point is you can't just go back forever with a series of dependent things because it's like there's nothing to get it started. So the argument from contingency is, I mean, you've got different kinds of arguments and so on. The basic idea, if you're using an infinite regress, is you eventually need something that exists necessarily to either get things started on one view or that is responsible kind of for the entire series. Anyway. Were you saying something, AP? You got a grin on your face.
Well, so Avery Godlogic asked him, he said, you're talking about the human nature of Jesus. And he said, no, I'm talking about Jesus. I'm just talking about Jesus. But then he's clearly talking about the human because he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand the distinction.
That is true.
And I would, I don't know if you can sincerely say this about Ali Dawah, but I would like to urge him or even invite him to sit down and have an actual conversation and just humbly sit down, be quiet, and just listen to somebody who can teach him a little bit about Christian theology and Christology, and then talk about these things once again, because he's just talking from the perspective of an ignorant Muslim.
And it's a problem that his fellow Muslims wouldn't know enough to correct him. But he would not accept correction from anyone else. And I know this. Why? Because after his debate with you, I don't know if you remember this, he debated you and he tried to use a contingency argument, and it was crap. And then Cameron Bertuzzi actually posted a video saying, Ali Dawah, if you want to use a contingency argument, try to get it right. Here's a better version if you wanted to argue this. And he gives him a contingency argument. And Ali Dawah's response was, well, I'm not going to listen to someone who believes in a Trinity and the deity of Christ try to lecture me about what... It's like, dude, he was actually trying to help you. Why? Because that was an argument for the existence of God. And he's saying, if you're going to argue for the existence of God, I hope you have a good argument because you're defending theism. I want you to have a good argument. He tries to help him, gives him a better argument. And Ali Dawah, no, you can't correct me because you believe in the Trinity. And anyway, he's too arrogant to accept correction. And the result is he makes stupid arguments. Let's see.
Dependent thing.
Jesus' divine nature. So because Jesus,
let
me finish. Let me answer in full. Okay, because Jesus has a divine nature, he has a nature that is independent. Okay,
you can't be dependent and independent at the same time.
Yeah, well, I agree that you can't be dependent and independent at the same time in the same sense.
Did you catch it? This is what's funny.
He doesn't get it.
Yeah, guys, I have a background in philosophy. Godlogic, who just runs into this argument because that's what Ali Dawah brings it up, and Godlogic's just like asking questions and stuff, but he's correctly pointing out all the flaws in what Ali Dawah is saying here. So right off the bat, when Ali Dawah says, there's 3 types of existence here, one of them is impossible existence. Oh, yeah? What's an example of that? Like a square triangle. Okay, so it doesn't exist? No. Okay, so it's not a type of existence. There's 2 types of existence, right? So you corrected him there. And then here, Ali Dawah saying something can't be necessary and contingent at the same time, or something can't be independent and dependent at the same time. And anyone who's taken a logic class at any point or a philosophy class would instantly think, no, you can't be dependent and independent in the same sense, at the same time, in the same sense. But Ali Dawah, no, it just can't. And by saying, no, you just can't be dependent and independent together at all, in any sense, he just buried his own religion because that's how desperate he is to attack Christianity. He doesn't mind burying his own prophet and his own God and his own book, as we will see shortly. Let me just go back slightly here. All right.
I would like to express, earlier I said they don't know what they are talking about. I would like to emphasize now I am double convinced someone just give him piece of paper. Okay, you memorize this as you memorize Surah 112, and then this is all you need to recite. Because someone who just kind of summarized, okay, here's the three types of existence, these are the kind of arguments, and then suddenly says, oh yeah, you can't be dependent and independent at the same time. It's just like, you know, he didn't know anything, and at this stage still he doesn't know anything.
That is correct. Yeah, and what you're saying, it actually, you compared it to memorizing a short surah of the Quran or something like that, but it's very similar in the sense that you'll have Muslims who memorize passages of the Quran, and we ask them about, and they have no clue what we're talking about. They don't know anything about, they don't even understand what they're reciting. But that's like him right now. He's learned to recite it without understanding anything that he's saying. This is like, there are even Muslims who memorize chapters of the Quran in Arabic and don't speak Arabic, so they don't know what they're reciting. They just they memorize it in a language they don't understand. That's kind of like what Ali Dawah is doing right here. He learned these words and he doesn't know what they mean.
Because Jesus has a divine nature, he has a nature that is independent. Okay?
You can't be dependent and independent at the same time.
Yeah, well, I agree that you can't be dependent and independent at the same time in the same sense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. Jesus is independent in regards to his divine nature, dependent in regards to his human nature.
But my argument is the following. I told you there are three types of existence.
We eliminated one of them.
Triangle, square.
I love how he just keeps burning them up. We already eliminated. I said that there's three types. Dude, isn't this amazing? Like, quit calling it three types of existence. One of them is non-existence, right? It's the opposite of existence. Oh, boy.
If I'll give you a little recap there, let's say this, because the triangle and square are distinct.
Right.
The triangle has 3 sides, the square has 4 sides.
Yep.
So the triangle, let's name the triangle Jesus. And let's name the square the Father.
No. Let's do that.
Let's not. Let's not do that. Hold up. So he is attacking the idea of the incarnation by saying something can't be dependent and independent at the same time. And then he goes on to say, okay, something can't be a square circle. And then he says, let's call the square the Father and the triangle the Son. This dude's all over the place with nonsense.
No, wasn't.
No, let's name the triangle flesh and name the square divine.
No, because you know why? Because there are 2 separate opposite beings. Let me tell you. Let me finish. Because you know where this is going. Now, yes, I'll be laughing if I was you too. You know when the nerves come up, you gotta release it one hand, brother. It's either by farting or laughing.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay. So now, guys, the triangle and square are 2 opposites. So I said an impossible existence. What?
Did he say a triangle and a square are opposites?
To have a triangle square, they're impossible. It's just the same way of saying us, dependent, independent.
Okay.
2 opposites, black, white. So now, and then I said, there are dependent things, like myself, I depend on water, sleep, shelter, food, and many other things to survive. I asked the question, is Jesus dependent or independent? He said, he's independent. I said to him, no, because Jesus, when he was born, could have been born with one arm missing. He said, yes. That shows he's composed of pieces. He could be any other way, and he's dependent. Okay. And I said, it depends on what he goes. It depends on his independence.
No, can I?
What he actually said, Ali Dawah, is what anyone with a functioning reasoning ability would say. Divine nature, human nature. You can say you don't believe it, but it's not a contradiction, sport. You just don't know because you don't even understand what a contradiction is.
All right, thank you. So you're conflating categories. So when you ask me, is Jesus dependent or independent? I said independent. That's in regards to his divine nature. He's the dependency. The human nature is dependent. Okay, it's composite, of course. Now you said that this is like doing sorry.
This belong to you?
Yeah, this is me. Okay. You said that this is like doing a squared circle. Now let me ask you this, because I agree with you that a square and square and circle cannot be, triangle square. Sorry, triangle square cannot be the same thing, right? Now let me ask you this:
are you laughing at him saying no, triangle square?
Yes.
You get that? Because everyone else for contradiction usually goes with square circle. Ali Dawah square triangle. And then
No triangle.
yeah, so apparently when he memorizes a little piece of paper that someone hands him, you can't change anything, right? So he's saying, so it would be like a square circle. No, square triangle. Completely irrelevant, dude.
You wouldn't want to have debate with him regarding like, okay, what is circle? He memorized with triangle, stick with it.
It's got to be square circle, isn't it? I mean, square triangle. What is this?
Can a triangle and a square be put next to each other?
Yeah.
Okay, is that a contradiction?
No.
Okay, so I'm not saying that the divine nature and the human nature are intertwined and mixed and are the same exact thing. I'm saying that they're next to each other. They're united in the person of Jesus.
Next to,
Okay.
no. When you
Yes,
make them
they're
next
united.
to when you mix them next to each other, unite them as one force of the triangle
they're
becoming
not
square.
mixed.
That's why I said it's an impossible existence, because you can't have triangle square. They are distinct.
That's what I'm saying. That's not a triangle square. They're next to each other. I have a triangle and I have a square.
No, but what
and
you've
they're
done
next
is
to each
it looks like a house. It's like
What's up?
I think Godlogic is getting there, and he's doing a good thing. But this is precisely the point here, Ali Dawah. We're not saying that it is a triangle and a square at the same time. That would be, for example, in terms of Christology, that there would be the two completely mixing, the two natures completely mixing and becoming one. Which is in Christianity not accepted as proper Christology. It is considered heretical, which is why the two natures are united and come together without confusion, without mixing, and without being separated. So the analogy that Ali Dawah is making here is not similar to the nature of Christ. He doesn't understand it.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't understand when people say 100% God and 100% man, people go, what? 100% God and 100% man? Isn't that like 200%? That's about the issue of mixing. So people, so on the issue of mixing, so think about if I have a glass of milk and a glass of orange juice and I mix them. If I mix milk and orange juice, I get something that's not really milk and not really orange juice anymore. It's a mixture. It's a mixture of the two. It's something else. I wouldn't take a sip and go, oh, this is great milk, or oh, this is great orange juice. It would be something else. It's something that's mixed together. So when you're talking about it from a theological perspective, it's like, okay, if you take a full glass of milk and a full glass of orange juice and they are somehow connected, but they are not mixed together. That's sort of the issue. And that's what Godlogic is trying to explain. If you take a triangle and a square and you bring them together, you've still got your triangle, you still got your square, and there's no contradiction there. And Ali Dawah is saying, no, you can't do that.
square and the triangle. It's like a little house, isn't it? Yeah. But it's like it doesn't work here because
I love this. You put a triangle and a square together, it look like a little house, isn't it? Let me back this up because this is awesome. This is learning your shapes with Ali Dawah. Everyone, if you take a square and you put a triangle on top, it looks like a house. Watch Ali Dawah point that out to everyone just so they know.
Twine and mixed and are the same exact thing. I'm saying that they're next to each other. They're united in the person of Jesus.
Next to,
Okay?
No. When you
Yes,
mix them next to each other, unite them as one force of the triangle
they're not
becoming
mixed.
square. That's why I said it's an impossible existence, because you can't have triangle square. They are distinct.
That's what I'm saying. That's not a triangle square. They're next to each other. I have a triangle and I have a square.
No, but what
and
you've
they're
done
next
is
to each other.
it looks like a house. It's like a square and a triangle. It's like a little house, isn't it? Yeah. But it's like this.
A house can't exist because that would be a square and a triangle together, in it. So you can't have something that looks like a house.
Because the house just fell apart. You know why? Because I'm saying, can you have a triangle square? He's saying no. When you put the triangle and square together, if you look at it, guys, it looks like a little house, yeah? But your argument of houses fell apart. I'm saying
This is Dawah, everyone. Learning shapes with Ali Dawah. Reminds me, seriously, look, everyone does this. Look, let me explain everything to you in shapes. And then we watch videos by Saj and he's like, let's talk about what the word means. And here's what a hadith is. And here's what a book is. And it's like, do all these guys have audiences of like 4-year-olds? Or just people with the mental ability of 4-year-olds? I don't know.
following. Because you're saying, can you have a square and triangle put together? I said yes, and it doesn't contradict. I said, can you have a triangle square?
Right, and I say no, right? So look, notice, let's get on the same page, okay? You and I both agree that you cannot have a triangle and a square in the same way, in the same sense, okay? We agree.
Ooh, what does that remind you? Once I see that again,
hold on a second.
No, say
You
that
can't-
again.
I'll say it again, sure, for the audience.
Yes.
You cannot have a triangle and a square in the same way, in the same sense.
Wow.
So understand.
If only you just said Jesus and the Father.
Wait, hold on.
Night.
Ali Dawah, follow what I'm saying. Follow what I'm saying, okay?
following.
So what I'm saying
following, but you're going astray. You're
let's
going
see.
astray.
What I'm saying is that we have a triangle and we have a square next to each other, united. Not that they're mixed, not that they're combined, they're united in the person, okay? So I'm not saying that Jesus is independent and dependent in the same exact way, in the same sense. That would be a contradiction. I'm saying that he has a nature that is independent and a nature that is dependent. Two different natures united in the person. That's called the hypostatic union. This is Christian theology.
That's
Hypostatic union. And guys, I want to give you all, I've made videos about this before, use this in various ways, but very, very simple way. I mean, simple in the sense of how easy it is to explain and how easy it is to understand. Does not mean that the Muslim you're talking to is going to understand it, but here's a good crack at it, right? Here's a good crack at. Here's a good crack addict. That's funny. People, there's Ali Dawah and his crack. He calls people crackhead clown individuals, and then people call him that, and then he cries Islamophobe. But okay, here's the Quran, right? If your Muslim friend is using Ali Dawah's argument from contingency, just pull out a Quran, and then ask: is Allah's speech eternal, or does it have a beginning? Is it eternal, or does it have a beginning? Ask him that, and you'll occasionally get a Muslim who says, "I don't know, it has a beginning." Say, go back to your imam and ask your imam or your sheikh that question, because you're considered a heretic in Orthodox Islam for saying that the Quran had a beginning. Anyway, ask him if the speech of Allah is eternal, or does it have a beginning? If he knows at all what he's talking about, he's going to have to say that the speech of Allah is eternal. It doesn't have a beginning. And then you say, that's interesting. Let me open up the Quran here, and I find, 1993? Wait a minute. You told me this thing is eternal. This was published in 1993. How can you say that this is eternal? Makes no sense. And you have to kind of go back and forth on this before he gets the point. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, this Quran has two natures. This Quran is supposedly a hypostatic union of Allah's eternal speech and the Mus'haf, this actual physical copy, right? So the idea is, again, you have to work your way through this, but the idea is that the Quran is Allah. I mean, the Quran is Allah's eternal speech. Allah speaks this from all eternity. The Quran has no beginning. It's uncreated. It cannot be corrupted. It can't be destroyed. It's the eternal speech of Allah. You say, okay, so Allah's eternal speech has no beginning, has no end, can't be corrupted, can't be destroyed, is not created. That's what Allah's eternal speech is. But Allah's speech to be in our world, if you want it in our world, it has to be written upon people's hearts or written in a book. If it's in a book form, or if it's written on people's human hearts or is being spoken by human beings, then it's what? Then you've got a dual nature already. You've got a dual nature. So speaking of the Quran, you've got the eternal speech of Allah, but if the eternal speech of Allah is going to be in our world, it is a book made of paper and glue and ink. And since it's in a book made of paper and glue and ink, it therefore has a beginning. It can be destroyed. We've done it multiple times. Can be corrupted. will eventually fall apart. And so, if that's impossible according to Ali Dawah, because those are opposites, eternal and temporal, right? It's infinite in existence and finite. Has no beginning, has a beginning. These are opposite properties. Ali Dawah doesn't think you can have that. In other words, the Quran is a contradiction. The Quran is a contradiction according to Ali Dawah. Rather, Islamic theology about the Quran is a contradiction. And therefore, the Quran, as Muslims believe in it, cannot exist. This is something as far as it is in Islamic theology. So every Muslim is going to grant that this is a physical copy of the Quran. We know that this exists, but according to Ali Dawah, something can't have two natures, and therefore the eternal nature of the Quran doesn't exist. Islamic theology of the Quran falls apart completely. Got that, everyone? Oh, Silent says Godlogic should have brought this up. Well, that's the thing. It's he's responding to Ali Dawah's argument as he's giving it, but that task always falls to other people. He's just responding to things as Ali Dawah's bringing them up and so on. But that's what's fun. We always get to unpack things later.
Yep.
Also, just practical reasoning, like this is happening at just before midnight, and very soon, like people are just going home, so there is no time to, like, there is not even time for him to question Tawhid yet, because once this discussion finishes, Ali Dawah is like, okay, time for bed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's some hypostatic nonsense.
No, you don't know how to do it.
One second.
So wait. Okay. So now it's my turn. Okay. So when you talk about composite, right?
What's up?
What was that? Did he just mock hypostatic? Like, is it like the first time he heard it or something?
Yeah, well, what is hypostatic nonsense, even though it's exactly what we believe about the Quran, innit?
They are very respectful people group. Very respectful people group.
He probably has never heard of hypostatic. So
Yeah.
He never heard of it.
Well, he didn't know what the word being means, so. And he thinks that impossible existence is a kind of existence, one of the three kinds of existence, so.
Composite.
Guys, again, this is not some random guy. This is one of the heroes and legends of Dawah, and his go-to argument for Godlogic after, but what about my prayer rugs, isn't it? This is his argument that he wanted to get to, and it's just beyond ridiculous, and he doesn't even know the terms. I don't even know what to do.
I agree that the human nature is composite, right? It has soul, mind, arms, legs, and stuff like that. The divine nature, it's not. It's not made up in parts. You are different, though. You believe in Allah. You don't believe that Allah is made up of parts, but you believe He has a hand. You believe He has a shin, right? You believe He has eyes. And how you say that these things are not like how you understand, or how you don't ask the how. I understand, but here's my question: is Allah identical to His hands, for example?
Is Allah identical to His hands? Is Allah identical to His hands?
No would mean that He literally has parts.
You got to either say yes, Allah is identical to His hands, which means the hands are Allah and Allah is the hands. Or you can say no, Allah is not identical to His hands. His hands are a part of Him, in which case He's made of parts. And Ali Dawah said something that exists necessarily or is independent cannot be made of parts. Oopsie.
What does he say?
Okay.
Let's see.
Are you finished?
Yes.
Okay, so I asked him the question. You guys heard it for yourself. In the beginning, when he said that they are not...
Is this what you're talking about, Hatun, when you're talking about he not answering questions?
Yeah.
This is what he does. Pathetic.
So back in the beginning, let me go back to shapes. Look, this is a triangle.
Imagine, like...
Good.
Sorry, I was just thinking he's talking about this is square, this is triangle. Imagine as he was giving this gift to Godlogic today at Speaker's Corner, I was just like thinking, did he even bother to kind of sit down with his 3-year-old kid and then teach those shapes to his child? probably not. Because the way he's speaking, you can just like, Lord, I have got to do repentance tonight. Just look at his face. Like his face is like screaming. His brain is coming out. Like this is too much for he. Like you can see he's screaming out. Like I don't know what I'm talking about. We just need to move on. We just need to. That's like how it is.
Yeah, and I mean, you brought out like, can you imagine him trying to break down the shape issue to his kid? He'd be like, "Look, see, this a square, isn't it?" And the kid would be like, "Ooh, square," and he'd go, "And this be a triangle, yeah?" And the kid would go, "Ooh, triangle. Hey, can I put triangle on top of square?" "No, you can't do that because then it would not exist, yeah."
No, it won't work like that. He's gonna say, you are 3 right now. You need to wait until age 6 or 7 when you start doing construction work. Right now, we are just working on the colors and shapes. Mm-hmm. Putting top of it will make it house. That's construction work.
Mm-hmm. Can't do that.
Too early for that.
Too early.
Same. If only he just changed the word triangle to Jesus and the square to the Father. Look, all you have to do is, guys, when he says triangle, Jesus, square, Father, it's over. The game is over. You know why? Because I'm telling you, he's joining them together as one, like they're distinct. He's saying that you can have a square and you join them together, unification. I'm saying
you can put a square and a triangle together. That's a fact, Ali Dawah. It's extremely easy to do. So the point is, Ali Dawah, it's not a contradiction.